there, guys. This is Malorian, and this is going to be an early Paintisode. Every Monday, I try and do these Paintisodes, and it's usually a little bit later. But today, I have a game lined up later, so I had two choices. No, two. Either I could do the Paintisode after, or I could do it before, or I guess third option is not do it at all. And I didn't want to have it so that I'd be doing the Paintisode later, and people might be waiting for that time. It's better for them to see, like, oh, geez, it's on right. It's already been done, right? So I'd rather have that. So for those who don't know what a Paintisode is, and this is your first time, a Paintisode is all about how I had some questions submitted to me. I'll be yapping about those things, but you're not really needing to watch me. This will be an hour long where I'm going to be doing some painting. You can be doing some painting. And at the end of about an hour, we both have stuff painted. And I've talked about different subjects. And as well, if you're going to be watching this live, you can post questions as well or topics, and we'll talk about those too. So what I'm going to be painting today is still going with this extreme painting challenge, and this is now breaking into the Forge Guard. So I got two Forge Guard guys here that I'm going to be trying to paint during this hour, and I have this test model as well. So I did this one here, and I'm not really hot about the paint scheme. So this has been the problem with the Forge Guard. Like, I tried doing this guy like 3 months ago, probably even more, and I was just like, no, this just does not work for me. So basically what I'm going to try doing is take this test model, put it to the side, and keep going, and just try and see if I can make this work on these new models here. And hopefully it does. I mean, that's the nice thing is when I was doing the press gangers, I know the scheme, so it was really fast. Now I'm breaking into new territory, and I don't really have a lot of time. I really have to kind of figure this out pretty quickly. So either way, I'm going to now switch over to look at the questions that were posted before and start talking about those while I start painting, and hopefully at the end we'll get somewhere. So from Ross Figure Painting Co. UK saying, sorry to hear about the cancellation of your tournament. How about that weekend? How about using that weekend to get the guys around for some Warhammer instead? Almost 400 hits on that last one. And as always, yes, I know people, there's more of, and there'll be a question about this later on too, there's more of a market out there for Warhammer reports than War Machine, but that's not what's going on here. This isn't a business. It's not really exactly what my prime directive is to go out there and try and get views. Clearly it's something I want, but it's not the primary thing that's happening here. Now, what's happening instead is, as much as I'd really like to play, there is actually a lot of people that kind of got screwed over by this tournament getting canceled. You have guys who took time off work in order to come in and play at these events, right? And so it really was not fair to them. You know, people who worked normally on the weekends, or guys who rented hotels because they're coming in from out of town, and they were saying like, well, what the hell, man, right? Like, we were supposed to be playing. And so what I'm doing instead is I'm running a replacement makeup tournament. Luckily, I have boxes of terrain and stuff here, and mats, and a cheap venue that I can just do a tournament like that. And so that's what I'm doing for the community. And as well, it kind of works out because it turns out that the new Steamroller and Hardcore and all the different new formats for 2015 was released today. So, hey, you know, sure, you don't get to play in this tournament which was planned by this other group, but hey, I'll run this makeup tournament, and we can go there, and it should be a lot of fun. So we'll see how that goes. Man, it's hard to really do this one. Normally I can talk and paint, but because I'm basically redesigning these models as I go, I'm having a lot more difficulty doing this. While we're on the topic of Warhammer and also new things coming out, with the new spoilers of what 9th is going to be, with the round bases and all this stuff, that really has me unhappy with Warhammer right now. whenever they change base sizes, that really sucks. Just think about the Beastman player, where Ungors before were on the 25 mil, and then they decide, oh, go put them on the 20 mil. And what that really means is you need to go through there, rip all your models off bases, and then rebase them. And so there's the expense of having to rebuy all these new bases. There's the expense for having to redo all the basing. You probably have to retouch the painting. And a lot of people, instead of rebasing them, just bought new models. You know, it's not that cheap. And so it's just ridiculous. Now, if you had to do this for your entire army, I have 14,000 points of orcs and goblins here. If I have to go and change all these guys to round bases, forget it. You know, it's just not happening. Now, it is possible to play the game with the square bases using the trays that slot them in or whatever. Or, you know, hell, I used to, back in the days when I was playing 40K, some of the models I'd put on round bases or square bases. I just didn't know what was going on. And whatever, you just kind of make it work. So I could always do that, but GW, that last choice really pissed me off that they would go and do that. So I'm trying not to go into a rant. When I first saw that video on the Sustainable Center talking about the round bases, I just wanted to explode. That was a really poor choice. Next question here. John Tailby saying, there has been a lot of comments about game balance recently. How internally balanced is War Machine, especially in the tournament setting? So balance in War Machine is really, really good, to really put it with lots of reallys. The main thing that really pushes this is the whole idea that you have the multiple lists. You know, you have the lists where if somebody goes for a skew for one thing, you can push it the other way and say, oh, okay, I see you have all this shooting, so I'm going to take my list that really counters that. As well, the books themselves, a lot of the units, you know, they're well pointed. You know, pretty much everything is viable. Really, I mean, as the meta changes, of course, some choices will be better than others. However, the main thing to look at for is that whenever you get something, it is very, very, very rare that's like, well, this is completely useless. You know, if I'm playing fantasy and I get like, oh, here, happy birthday, Malorian, here's a whole bunch of snotlings, I'll always be like, well, geez, thanks, buddy. You know, but in War Machine, there is that really good internal balance where they've done their homework, they've done all their play testing, and everything is really good. Now, at the same time, you can't just grab random models and hope to win a tournament. Different models synergize better with different casters, are better for different metas. So, I mean, that whole thing you have to definitely keep in mind. Yeah, you know what? I think there's pants under here I need to be painting. Okay, let's do that. Exploratory painting, that's what's happening right here. And so it really is hard to go wrong. You know, no matter what faction you take, unless you say are taking minions, which isn't really developed yet, things are very well balanced. So that's really the best part I can put. I mean, if you look at a tournament, a lot of times the thing that's winning the most is the thing that's brand new, because nobody really knows how to deal with it yet. So that's a good sign. I mean, otherwise you'd be saying the same thing, winning over and over and over again. And I mean, sure, there's some people that say cricks are broken, or this are broken, or that is broken. But at the end of the day, all the different factions are winning, and there's a lot of different lists that are winning those events as well. So as a gamer, that makes me really happy to see. Next thing from him, from John Telby, saying many events seem to use multiple lists, like I talked about. Is this part of the way to increase balance, or does it just increase the game of list design, paper, scissors, rock? No, definitely it helps with the balance. Like I say, if you play any other game with a single list format, if somebody brings rock, well, it's really a question about what you have in your list to counter it. And you're kind of stuck with whatever you took. I mean, a lot of times you want to take a balanced list so that you can deal with all these different situations. But if your opponent doesn't take a balanced list and really skews hard one way, you're kind of stuck with what you got there and how well it might be able to handle that skew. Now, the nice thing about a multiple list format then is the whole idea where you now have the ability to counter skews with your lists. So you might have something in your list that is designed to take on high armor. Maybe you have something else that's designed to take on high defense, right? Maybe it's actually this one caster. This one caster is crushing it in your meta. So you say, damn, I'm going to be taking this in order to counter them. And so whenever that comes up, you can deal with that. So definitely it gets a lot deeper than that. I mean, one of the things you can always do is if you want to still push the skew, you could be trying something like, I'm going to take 2 armor skews and then base each one around the general counters to that. So if somebody has shooting, I'll do an armor skew that is also anti-shooting. Or if they're more infantry based, I'll do an armor skew that can really deal with infantry as my other list. So that when I walk in with 2 rocks and then can kind of deal with or have a better drop against what your possible counters are. But man, I mean, I'm trying to tell you now, it is really deep, and in the end, you just really get list balance. Plus, as well, the whole thing is really based around trying to win the event, and if you want to win the event, you can't lose a game. And so if you go too hard on one skew, you might win 95% of your games, but if you are then giving up that one game, you are basically giving up the tournament. So it definitely is a very strong system, in my opinion. Got a little notification here I got to get rid of. Good to see I got 7 viewers. Maybe this is going earlier is a better idea here. But if you guys have any questions you want, I'm going to be covering the other ones first, and I'll get to these ones after. Come on, I'll tap. Next one here, Lord Stannis Baratheon. What time are you starting? I'm starting right now. Starting early today because I got a game later, and I think I'm going to pull out my gators. And that should be a lot of fun. T-Bone, can a parrot stop a bullet? Well, I suppose if it gets shot, even though the bullet will kind of stop. Jasper W. comments on this thing. I think it would depend on the size of the parrot and the caliber of the bullet and all these things. I don't know if this is referencing a TV show or some viral video or what, but it's kind of an odd comment. I've had a couple of these before. I'm now going to have to kind of remember, you know, T-Bone and watch out to see if he's the guy always asking the janky, weird questions. But can a parrot stop a bullet? Yes. Philomath, what are the main aspects that make War Machine hordes balanced in your opinion? 2 max, so I get 2 aspects. Which are the most representative war noun for each faction. So the 2 things that makes War Machine the most balanced is 1, the multiple list format, 2, the multiple win condition format. So again, if you take another one which has only 1 win condition, say like fantasy, where for the most part it's like who has the most victory points, and yeah, they brought in the Watchtower and man, this is bad that I can't remember Blood and Glory, which was nice to have those other win conditions, but those are really rare. Whereas in War Machine, all the time you can either win by scenario, you can win by assassination, or you can win by death clock. And so again, that's a way of balancing the game. So if somebody takes a skew for winning one way or the other, you just focus on the other win conditions and go from there. So definitely something I really like. What are the, how do you word it, the most representative war noun for each faction? The most popular things you see from each faction. Okay, so most popular thing you see from Signar, gun mages. Most popular thing you see from, oh, I missed this guy's black boots, that you see from Cricks, Bane Thralls. Most popular thing you see from Retribution would be the, what are those guys called? The crossbows. I want to call them Mage Hunter Assassins, but I know very well that those are the combat solos instead. Strike Force? Mage Hunter Strike Force, I think they're called. I don't get to play enough Retribution. They're not popular enough. But okay, but that's the one. The ones that can shoot around, don't need line of sight. They have little magical crossbows like the guy in, what's that movie called? Guardians of the Galaxy. And this is killing whatever he needs it to kill. Khador, most popular thing there would be right now pikemen. That's another thing too, is remember these things change all the time as the meta changes, right? Before I'd be saying Kayazi, or I'd be saying Winter Guard, and now pikemen are the most. Even now that's seeming to be changing again. For a while, you know, it was even commandos were the big thing for Khador when the one guy got them to work really well. So let's see who else we got. Convergence. I don't know Convergence that well. What would be the most popular thing? Prime Axiom would be the big popular thing from that. Mercenaries, Earthbreaker. You could also say Gorman, I suppose, as well. Legion, we should be saying Ravagore. If we're talking about trolls, we should be talking about the Stone, or probably we should also be talking about Mulg. He's probably the most popular, like the #1 thing that's in pretty much every list. What else do we got? We have Scorn. Most popular thing that's pretty much on every list would be Ping Givers. What else we got here? Minions would be Gatorman Posse. See, if I had the ability to go to the website and kind of work off that, that'd be a lot easier. Circle would probably stones. The shifting stones are the most popular thing you always see. Man, I don't even know if I like this paint scheme. Right now, I'm just basically going into a trance and just painting and seeing where I go. But generally, for my War Machine faction here, these models, I like going with the green armor. And then I put this chain, what is it called? Bolt chain. Chainmail is an old thing. Now it's called lead belcher. Wherever the thicker armor should be. Now, the reason why these models are causing me such hassle is that they basically have thick armor all over their bodies. And so I basically painted everything green as the first main color, and then wanted to immediately paint almost everything gray again. So it was really trying to fight that and really only pick certain areas that were getting painted that dark silver, and it just really wasn't working out the way that I had first thought. And so that's why those first trial guys didn't really work out. And I'm already kind of seeing now that, again, if I'm going to be keeping up what I'm doing here, this guy is going to be ending up to be mainly silver. But hey, you know, maybe that's just the way these guys are. They're the heavily armored dwarves with the big hammer, and just like black orcs, which are basically just all silver armor all over the place, these guys will just be silver armor all over the place too. So, c'est la vie. We will see how this model goes. I'm even thinking that I shouldn't be doing like 1 and 1. I should try and finish this one guy first and make sure I like the look of it before I go to the next one. And I really don't have time to mess around, though. I mean, if I don't get these 2 guys painted today, I'm falling behind in my schedule for this painting challenge I'm in. Anyway, we'll go back and we'll answer another question. We are going to be talking here from Sidomer Punovic. Could you start covering more of the Horde side? Lists, tournaments, tactics. I am starting Trollbloods and want to play Doomshapers heavy on heavy war beast lists. Would also like to see video covering all colossal gargantuans, their uses, flaws, and lists in which they could be used. Well, I mean, the first thing to keep in mind is that a lot of tactics that I talk about for the War Machine side applies exactly the same on the Horde side. So definitely, just because it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be playing Signar and I'm going to be taking these press gangers and I'm going to be jamming and trying to go for scenario. I mean, all these things apply to Hordes as well. You're just using their equivalents. Clearly, Hordes, you'll be having more beasts because you need to. So a lot of times you're dealing with, like you're trying to do there, with a more beast-heavy army. but for the most part, it's most of the same type of idea and tactics. Now, one of the things I'll warn you there is Troll Bloods are one of these ones where I'm a little bit weak on. Again, they aren't super popular. Just when I was starting to learn them, the guy who was playing them switched over to Legion. So if you were looking to me for troll tech, I might not be the right guy to talk to. I mean, I can do my best, and I can talk about some things. I mean, eventually with my whole Warcaster review, I'll be going through them as well. But I might have to be bringing on some more local specialists to be helping me out there. Man, this just is not working the way I wanted it to. But talking about the Gargantuans and Colossals, I could do that. That probably should be like a War Machine 101 video where I talk about the use of Gargantuans. As far as talking about them one at a time type thing, I don't know if that would be the right thing for me to do. I mean, maybe like after I do my Warcaster reviews, that'd be a good idea to do. They do get kind of specific. I mean, the way you use a Stormwall and the way you use Adjudicator are vastly, vastly different. So to be fair, just a video talking about Colossals will not give you enough information. But at the same time, I don't know. The problem right now is I'm just getting into this, right? I mean, if I was already at a spot where I had already covered all the basics, I'd be like, yeah, I can go and talk about whatever. But since I'm at this interesting junction right here where I'm still having told people about power attacks, I don't know if I want to be already going too far. So I don't know. I'll have to give it more thought. You know what? I am liking the look of what I did here a lot better than this one. It has more silver on it, but it doesn't feel like it's too much silver so far anyway. It seems to be working out. Thomas Mertens, why are there so few War Machine Battle Reporters compared to 40k in Fantasy and almost no painting tutorials for Warmahordes? When I buy a new army in Fantasy, I always watch the painting tutorials of that army to get tips. There are painfully few tutorials for Privateer Press models. First of all, I'll cover the painting thing. There is not many painting tutorials. Again, probably because painting's not required. So, you know, whereas in 40k and Fantasy, it's a lot of a bigger deal where you need to have things painted. But in War Machine, it is kind of just like a next level hobby type thing, unless you're doing hardcore or something that requires it. But there is Menoth John. Painting with Menoth John is the one that I would suggest. He has a weekly show as well where he paints. He's a great, funny guy. You got to make sure you bring your Kraken rum with you. And so stuff is out there. But I do completely agree. There's not a lot of stuff, you know, and you really would think that there'd be more out there. But there isn't. Now, that kind of goes to the next thing of why overall there's just less stuff on YouTube about War Machine as opposed to Fantasy and 40k and blah, 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 blah. And that's really about where this is still a rather new game to be exploding out here. I mean, it's really just in the last few years that they've been at the point here where they're competing with GW and they're still establishing themselves. And while they are establishing themselves, the community has come together more so on the podcasts rather than on YouTube. So say, for example, where Fantasy and 40k really started in the forums, and you got your battle reports there on the forums, and then people started making things on YouTube, and so everything kind of transitioned there. Because of Games Workshop, or sorry, Privateer Press, really developing after that point, they're now going with the next stage where podcasts are more popular. Now, I do believe that given time, that is going to shift back or at least equalize so that you'll start seeing a lot more established YouTubers as well. But it's going to take time. And that's one of the things that I'm gambling on and waiting on is that me here and making all this effort to make battle reports that get, less than 100 views, it's okay, because basically I'm trying to be that founding father out there that's just trying to get things going. And there are a lot of ones out there. I mean, I shouldn't say like I am the founding father. I mean, you got a lot of other battle reporters that are out there, but there's also no unity, right? I mean, there's no real community where they're all linked together. Whereas, say, for the fantasy and 40K side, a lot of the YouTubers were talking to each other, and like you would see guys from Mini Wargaming chatting with Blue Table Gaming, chatting with, whoever, and they start getting like a network going. You don't really see that for the YouTubers for War Machine, whereas you do for the podcasts. Now, I talked about how last time I didn't feel that I should try making a community because I'm not really established enough yet. But man, the more that time goes on, the more I think that I should just go ahead and do that. So that may be a 2015 goal of mine to get that done. And if so, of course, I'll post it up. I think the biggest thing that'll be the hardest is that if I make a group saying, hey, this is a place for Warhammer, War Machine YouTubers to get together and talk about what they're making and get input and all this stuff, like a little meeting spot, it's all for nothing if the other YouTubers don't jump on board. And especially for a lot of these other guys who are well established, they don't need the help of the group. If anything, they might lose viewers, right? As, sure, I mean, like let's say advanced maneuvers, they're awesome, but let's just say for purpose of argument, they like my reports more. And then from watching my reports, they have to decide time-wise, man, am I going to watch Mr. Malorian or advanced maneuvers? And all of a sudden, people who are more established could be losing viewers because of sharing. And so I'm worried that might happen. I might be looking too far into it, and in fact, that's not going to happen at all. But at this point, that's one of the worries that I have of how they wouldn't support it. And if they don't support it, maybe at least I can get other newer ones to come together and then bring it together that way. But it'll be definitely a process, nothing that's going to be like, aha, it's done. So 2015 goal, and we'll see how it goes. Jumping across, hey, we got Lee from the Bleep podcast saying, hey, Malorian, how you doing? Lee from Bleeped Up Productions. So yeah, I mean, here's another one too, where he's been doing this for a long time, and he puts a lot of work into his videos. They are fine polished, but he doesn't get a lot of views on them compared to the 40K in fantasy. And it really is a shame. And it really is because the community isn't coming so much to YouTube yet. And it's a complete shame because, like I said, he put so much work into it. Like, I'm trying now to make better quality. He is 10 steps ahead of me. And when I look at the views he has, it just doesn't seem fair. But yeah, we'll kind of see where we get to. Jasper W saying, wow, Mr. Malorian is early today. Yeah, I had to decide to go late or early, and I decided to go early so that nobody's waiting at their computer. Just when I was thinking about going to bed, but then can wait an hour. Let me get my paints. Grab them paints, get painting. I only have about half an hour left where I'll be covering questions. And for those viewers, I still got a good group of you here, 9 now. Post your questions. I'm going to go back, finish those old ones, and I'll get back to yours. If I'm at half an hour and a half done, I don't feel good about finishing these 2 models in the time, seeing as how one's almost not even started. But this one actually could be almost done. So maybe I'll get close. Next one here coming from Thomas Mertens. Oh, no, I already covered that. Teo Dark, question 1. For Malorian, if you make it to Team Canada for ETC, will there be any sort of sponsorship or charity event or something that we as subscribers can donate to help you afford the funding to get there? Also, will there be any Malorian recordings of the drunken Irish while there? Catching that last part, yes, I'd be making lots of videos down there. This would be the gathering of all the great players. I definitely want to be doing recordings of whatever I can. If nothing else, just for myself to kind of like remember it for days to come. As far as fundraising, We do that a lot locally. A lot of tournaments and fundraisers, and maybe even running casinos this year. We'll see to raise the money. But as far as getting my subscribers to pay for it, I don't know if I really want to go there. You guys already do enough where you basically are loyal and you watch my videos, and I don't really want to ask any more than that. I mean, if there's a few out there, I mean, here's a good example. When I went to my first Brawler Bash, I had somebody come forward after and say, you know what, I love your work. I want to next year pay you $500 to cover your fees. And I said, that's great, thanks for watching, that's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And next year, he didn't say anything. And I'm not going to go through and write him back and say, hey, buddy, you promised me $500. Pay up or else I'll break your kneecaps. You know, like, it's not what it's about. So really all I'm asking from you guys is, you know, if you really want to help me in my channel, the best thing you can do is spread the word. That is the #1 thing you guys can do. You know, when you're there at the store playing with your guys, say, hey, you know, like, have you guys seen Mr. Malorian's battle reports? You know, or his Warcaster reviews? You know, that's really what I need right now. Financially, I can cover it. You know, don't worry there. We'll do enough local things. If you guys really want to help me, please save your money, buy your own models and the things you need, and, you know, instead just spread the word of the channel, and we'll try and get this so it's a little bit bigger. Question number 2 for Whoopie Womp, and unfortunately I didn't explain that yet. Whoopie Womp is a fantasy player that was getting into War Machine, and so today was supposed to be us talking about what factions he might want to look at given his play style and what type of looks he likes. But unfortunately his internet died, so that's not going to be happening today. So if you remember me saying that and you're wondering where the hell is Whoopi, unfortunately he won't be with us today. We will make it up another day, but for right now it's just me. But let's see if I can answer the question. As a new to War Machine gaming scene, can you give us a new set of eyes on what it was that drew you to the game, if even from just interested but not sure, if you are ready to dive in standpoint? Well, clearly he's not here, so I'll say what kind of got me to War Machine, which was really the whole idea where, first of all, I had to kind of really look at it because it was all that was being really played where I was at. So, hey, it was either play War Machine or not play anything. But the real thing that got me interested, because, I mean, I guess there was option 2, which was to try and get more people involved in fantasy to get games that way. But the reason why I didn't and why I got so intrigued with War Machine is the play style. The play style where every single activation matters. I mean, to me, and to be fair as well, when I make this statement, I realized that I had developed a more of a sloppy but fun fantasy style where I just pushed my stuff up, 6 dice my spells, threw all the dice, and saw what happened, and tried to win more by overpowering my opponent rather than making a lot more of tactical moves. And so when I saw this game, we were like, wow, you know, you activated this model before this model, oh, you just lost the game. Like, you have to really focus. And it's like, oh, you activated this and then did this and then this. Did you realize that if you did this and then this and then this, it actually had a much better chance, or you'd get this goal plus do this as well? So it was just really that tactical flexibility, we'll call it, that really just drew me to the game. There was also the look of some of the models that drew me in. Of course, there's the look of some of the models that made me go like, ugh, I don't like that. But you get that from every game. So really that different aesthetic where, I mean, eventually you start getting used to the Games Workshop skulls on everything style. And so it was refreshing to see this new style from Privateer Press. So there's also the look that brought me into it as well. And of course, then the idea of just the lower model count, so I would not have to worry about painting a bajillion models. You know, you just need to paint up, you know, let's say 20, or not even. You know, when you're looking at your battle box, you're looking at like 3 models sometimes, and then you're good to go. So that was definitely a big thing that pulled me in. Is this model done? It's not complicated what I did. I kept things pretty simple. Ah! And I dropped them. No. No. Luckily, I have a carpet down here, so nothing broke. That's going to be a nice sound file. I should go back and just listen to myself scream like a terrified little girl. But, yeah, nothing broke. And I think we got it, guys. Whereas the big thing that was going to hold me back from getting these Forge Guard done was not being able to figure out the paint style. I think this one works. I mean, comparing it to my other test model, yeah, this one I don't like at all. This one, it's working for me. Yeah, I like this a lot better. Awesome. We have a paint scheme. And now we are ready to get them gears going and pump out these models. So let's see, where are we time-wise for that? We're 40 minutes in, so I got 20 minutes to kind of blitz through the other model. I'll get to wherever I can, but that's a huge thing for me here to get this done here, to have a scheme that I can work off of. Because once you have a scheme, like I said, that's when you can start churning them out. All right, going back to see if anything is anything over here from D. Canhon. Wow, I'm actually watching this live. Have you seen the new Retribution character Jack Moros? And if so, what do you think of the model and rules? Model-wise, he seems amazing. And rules-wise, he seems pretty cool too. I really don't think you're going to see him, though. This is the shame, is that he's this really cool Jack. For those who haven't seen, most of the Retribution Jacks are kind of boring, where they're big and white, like, I have one big weapon, one little weapon. And they're all kind of like the same type of boring thing. This guy is like hunched over. He's got his little evil weapons. I believe he has stealth. And, you know, he's really, really interesting in that way. But it seems from what I've been seeing from a lot of Retribution lists, that a lot of them are either built around the Hyperion, and that's what you use your Jack on, or you're using your Jack points just like one arc node, or like a Phoenix, or it's the Jack spam one. I really don't know how this light Jack, or how this Jack is going to kind of fit into it. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Retribution players do with it. But that's going to be really the biggest call. For my part here, like as a Signar player, I'm not too worried about it because I can see through stealth. And, you know, if you're taking this Jack and not something else, I'm happy with that. But for other players where their shooting doesn't deal with that well, it'll be more of an issue. So we'll have to kind of see. Either way, I love the look of the model. That's the best thing, is that finally for Retribution, they have a different look to the model there. But I'm not a Retribution specialist either, so maybe there's like a genius thing that I just have not heard about yet. Because at this point here, it's new enough that the different podcasts I listen to, they haven't really talked about Moros yet. So may have to go, and maybe there's a newer one on Hand Cannon Online or something. But so far, I haven't really heard anything groundbreaking that's going to be like, it's broken, which is, again, the beauty of War Machine. Everything seems to have like its place, but it's not really broken. El Shaiko, I guess that's how you say that name. I find it refreshing that I can use any edition of Caster and still play competitive. This is my opinion rather, helps to get the new players stuck in due to the starter box not becoming obsolete. Now, that is true. I mean, if I buy the Legion box, those shredders you'll use, the Carnivian you're going to use. Lilith, you know, Lilith might not be your caster in the end, but again, like we were talking about, there is a lot in that box that you will be using down the road. And so from that perspective, it's a nice starting point. Now, looking at some of the others, say, for example, the Troll one, where you get 2 of the Impalers, it is, I guess you could be running a shooty army that runs Impalers, but for the most part, you just take 1. So you get these kind of things where like, I don't normally wouldn't normally take this. So you start getting a little bit more of that feel that maybe this is a waste. But still, I do heavily agree that as we go through all of these caster reviews for the starting casters, there's not really ones out there. They're like, oh, this guy's garbage. You know, buy this starter set, throw this caster in the garbage. You really can make a lot of stuff work. Another one here from the Bleeped Up podcast saying, new battle report is coming out soon, pal. Karchev versus Morvana. That could be an interesting one. Now, which Morvana is it? Is it 1 or 2? Which one would be worse? The one, I don't think either of those ones are good for Karchev. Karchev likes to run a lot of jacks, and he's all about his little bum slingshot. For those who don't run, he can basically drag jacks behind him. So you'll see Karchev do is like move up and like turn around, show his bum, and throw the jacks in front, and they get this big alpha. And the good thing about both Morvanas is that they kind of slow things down. They throw models in your face. Either Morvana 1 raises them back up. Usually it's the blood trackers, or if it's Morvana 2, just whatever she wants from her army comes back up. So she can take that initial charge and slow it all down and start moving that attrition going back. So yeah, that's definitely could be a real issue. So if I had to put money on it, I'd put money on Morvana, but I'll have to go and check out that podcast or that battle report. All right, popping back to other questions. Sergeant Death 1942 says, do you think that they might add more factions? Absolutely. They're already doing it. I've heard that there's supposed to be another one coming out in 2015. We'll see if that comes up. But, I mean, just look at the last year. We had Convergence come out. Then we had Cephalix come out. I mean, now we're going to have something coming out again. And you'd think it'd be Hordes because we have War Machine, War Machine. Hordes should be what we be a new faction here. I feel that Horde seems to lack interesting factions for a player like me, and it seems to be less popular than War Machine. It really goes on and off. Like, you really get a swing through. I mean, again, we just talked about Morvana. When Morvana 2 came out, and now Baldur, or sorry, not Bradigus, you see Circle all over the place. Legion, fairly popular. Scorn, less popular. Minions are minions. You'll see them usually coming out for fun. But there's not really a difference. Maybe this is it. Maybe when you're coming from 40K, 40K is like, yeah, robots. So they look at it as like, yeah, War Machine, I want to get those jacks. So maybe you see that a lot more with newer players. But for the veteran players, I see it way more balanced. Way more balanced. So it must just really be your meta. And of course, like you say there, that none of the Horde factions really seem interesting to you. I mean, we could talk about what your play style is and what aesthetics you like. Keep in mind, too, that you can do conversions and changes to the models. The majority of the model has to stay the same, and it has to be clear what weapons it has and stuff. But if you just really wanted something darker, like a Crix look, there's nothing stopping you from doing like an undead circle army where you convert up all the warp walls so that they're actually like you can see the flesh coming off the face, you can see the bone, and like, you know, their arm's broken and there's a bone coming out here and there's blood coming from the mouth. Like, you can do this stuff. So I don't know what type of thing you're looking for, but know that first of all, there's all these factions. All the Hordes factions have different views. Again, circle, you have your werewolves, you have your constructs, and then you can always convert as well. But yeah, of course, the more that Privateer Press comes out, the more options we have, and that's just better for everyone. I mean, there's some people there that just love the Cephalix, and they're just all over that. To me, the fact that the 3 jacks, like they come out, okay, they're not really jacks, they're monstrosities. But the fact that they all kind of look the same as far as pose goes, that kind of threw me off. But I know there's a lot of other people that are just loving the Cephalix. Definitely Convergence. A lot of people that love that look. So yeah, I mean, who knows what they'll be coming out with next. I mean, already with the Scorn, we're seeing those beetle beasts coming out. So clearly there's a lot of creativity going on there. General Torg saying, if you could add any unit to the game, what would you add? I actually read this one before, and something came right to mind. And what it was is we were joking before where there was a game where things were going on fire, Fiora was involved, and we're saying, you know what, we would love a Firefighter model. It would be a 1-point gobber, it would have a 6-inch spray, and whatever the 6-inch spray went over, continuous effects would stop. And it, you know, it seems like most of the time it would be completely useless, but man, I bet you that would work itself into a lot of lists. There's a lot of casters out there who don't like being on fire, and 1 point for this little firefighter to follow you around and put you out should you be lit aflame. I bet you people will be all over that. I mean, like, the model could look hilarious. You know, I think that'd be great. So if I could make one unit, it would be that. He would be a mercenary. Maybe he'd be like the Tinker, where he's a minions that can't be used by minions just to piss them off a little bit more. But yeah, that's the one I would make. Oh, this one's longer. Casper W says, if you don't mind doing a list review, I'd love to hear comments on my 50-point Chromac list. And, you know, I've been saying a lot of, oh, I don't know that well. Chromac, I know better. I play an okay amount of Circle, especially in the past. And so, and Chromac has been one of the ones I was really getting into. So I can definitely talk about this. So we have Chromac, we have the Argus, we have the Gorax, we have the Getrix, 2 Stalkers, Shifting Stones with UA. You have your Bellower's crew, the Tharn Blood Trackers, Druid Wilder, and Lord of the Feast. He also says it's a very beast-heavy list, but Argus and Gorax are mainly in there for their Animus. Gorax is an auto-include, but I thought that a 180 vision from the Argus would work great with Lord of Feast and Berserk Stalkers and Warpath. Well, keep in mind that the Lord of the Feast has 360 anyway, so you don't need to worry about getting that Animus out. And the Stalkers, I don't think that would normally come up. I mean, the idea of getting Berserk going in the middle of a unit and being like, ha ha ha, I kill everything, that sounds awesome, but that doesn't really work. I mean, you'd have to get a weird charge in, you'd be taking 3 strikes to getting too deep in. Really, you just need to get to that front line, kill a bunch of stuff, Warpath up, and you are already going to be slaughtering the everything when it comes to that Wild Aggression Stalker with Berserk. So you don't need that. So right away, looking at this, I think the Argus needs to go. I'm not super against the Argus. I know some people are like, Arguses are dumb, never take them. I love them with Kaya when you have the Forced Evolution on them, and they become like Defense 17. But in this Chromac list, I do not really think the Argus is really needed. I mean, I'd rather take a Moonhound to go with your Blood Trackers there. The next part there, I mean, do you really need then the Lord of the Feast? I mean, we just talked about the Stalkers that can get in there and kill so much infantry. And the nicest thing with them is that they can get away as well. I mean, I guess you could put Sprint onto the Lord of Feast to try and keep him safe, but the nice thing is that you can also Warpath with the battle group. So the Stalker goes up, it kills something, Warpath's back, Sprint's back, and it can just kill a ton with no retaliation. The Lord of the Feast, what it normally does is get in there, kill a bunch of stuff, and then dies because it really just can't get away. So I don't know if you really need him either. I mean, that frees up 8 points, which could get you another heavy. For 8 points, you could be getting a Gnarlhorn. I'd like a Gnarlhorn on the list because they give you a farther charge, because you can get Bounding Leap if you really want to get that in as well. You can get a lot more assassination potential with that. Counter Slam can be kind of cool, but what I also like running with Chromac is I like running the Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are a nice target for his armor buff, and so they can get up there and they can tie things up because, sure, with Chromac, he loves to kill things and run away, but then you kind of need a contest scenario as well. You do have the Blood Trackers, and I mean, and that's another place too where the points could go. You could be putting them into the Blood Trackers to making them a more max unit You could get Nawala in there. So I'd be looking more into those areas. I mean, always you go with the Gorax is great. I'm trying to lean more lately to be going with the Alpha, because going primal and losing a turn can kind of suck. And so if you can just ignore that buff by getting a blessed weapon, I kind of like that more too. Plus, of course, that spray can be awesome to start triggering the warpath. Plus, of course, as a heavy, it does a lot more work for you. So I don't know, you'd have to free up another point for that to happen. But either way, where I was going with that, Stalkers, you're always seeing 2 Stalkers. Getorix is always in the list. So I think your list is pretty much there. It's really, and there's nothing wrong with Lord of Feast. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're up against Crix, he might be just what you want. You know, if you start seeing lots and lots of infantry, going anti-infantry to 11 is not a bad thing. That's exactly what you need. But usually, I think it's going to be overkill. And of course, where he's a character, or I believe he is, that would then free up the Lord of the Feast to be in your other list. So you might want to consider that change. Is there anything else here? Christopher Murphy saying, I would love to hear, oh, this is the scored one, yeah. So he's asking what my thoughts are on scoring casters in a tournament setting. I really, okay, here's the thing with Scorn. I believe Scorn started disappearing when you saw Butcher 3 come out. Scorn used to be a real worry that I used to always kind of watch for. But then all of a sudden, it all kind of stopped. It also kind of stopped when you started seeing the convergence, recursion really mechanic going on there, where they would say, okay, go ahead, go and attack us. Because normally your bronze backs are like, oh, I just killed whatever, but then they just bring back whatever you kill. Prime Axiom kills one of your heavies, and you're just in a really bad spot. Or you're up against Butcher, and he starts killing off your heavies, and again, you're in kind of a bad spot. Probably the more Convergence did it more than Butcher 3, but either way, I've been definitely seeing them fading away in the meta. I mean, they have a lot of really great casters that can be doing a lot of great things, but it just seems like they've been moving on to other things. Of course, the biggest one in the global meta was Trevor Christensen, who left his his Scorn to go to Legion, and then just wins just like that in his first tournament with them, and almost like the first. I think he only had like 5 or something games before then. He said it was something small like that. I think it was under. He was under the double digits anyway. So that really shows that maybe the meta is better to not be Scorn right now. But at the same time, they do have some great things. But as far as what you should be taking for your meta and what the different casters, I mean, I will be doing my Warcaster review where I will be covering all the different scoring casters and talking about how they might interact with Malakarn or whatever shenanigans they have. But it's hard to give information past that. Also, I know we have a big meta here in Pennsylvania, so I'm lucky to play against a lot of great guys. We also play very competitive, and as a result, we have a few rivalries. They are all friendly in nature and are great for really honing your skill. So my question is this: do you have a rivalry on the tournament scene that calls to you? Over here, do I have a rival? The funny thing about my play style is that I call everyone my rival. You know, when whatever buddy of mine walks in the store, I'll be like, Nemesis! And it just kind of like, it's just more for fun. Like you say, I mean, if you have a game and it's against your Nemesis, it means more. So even just saying it, even though everybody knows, it's just kind of like something I say, just starts things fun right off from the get-go. As far as like an actual rival, probably the one I would have is normally, I mean, what your rival should be is someone who's really close in skill. You know, if you have a rival that you always just kick their teeth in all the time, it's not really much of a rival. If you have a rival you always lose to all the time, It's not so much a rival as an oppressor. So I would say the player that I believe is the closest to my skill level that we've had a lot of back and forth over the years is we have a local guy that started with Trolls, went to Legion after, and I mean, our very first game I beat him. Then after that, he had a long string where he was beating me. Then I kind of learned his game, started beating him back, and had a little bit of back and forth. And now currently we're in a spot where I'm able to beat him. He's the Lilith 2 player I always have to try and plan for. But when Zuriel comes out, man, this could switch back the other way. And again, I mean, it's not really so much of a thing where, you know, we see each other and we know that we have to key each other's car or whatever. We're spitting at each other. It's totally friendly. But it's definitely a thing where we're always watching out for each other. We're always planning for each other. You know, whenever we get paired against each other, it's like, oh boy, here we go. Let's see what's going to happen here. And even though I know right now I am beating him more than not in tournaments, I know very well that that's going to swing the other way, be it with Zuriel or be it with whatever else, because we are very much at the same skill level. If you ask me. So anyway, that's my rival if I have one. Have you ever had a nasty opponent that you look forward to beating? It's not so much so that I look forward to beating opponents because they're nasty or mean. If anything else, I've enjoyed beating players that I knew from 40K. Now, 40K can be a lot more of, I just got the best thing, so I win. And so I loved it when they come over to War Machine and need to use tactics. And I love seeing them fail. You know, these guys are so cocky. It's like, I spent $2,000 at Forge World, so now I'm going to win the next tournament. And now they come over and it's like, yeah, I spent $2,000 buying the best net list. Well, that's great. You may have bought E. Haley and 2 Stormwalls, but if you don't know what you're doing, we're going to run all over you. So that's what I really enjoyed seeing. And I've also been surprised as well, too. That happened to a couple of people who transferred over, but there was another one who came over and picked up the game like that. And it was really good for our friendship, because whereas before, it was kind of like, oh, man, I mean, this guy, he just kind of takes the best net list, and, you know, he kind of always just, like, stomps everyone. And so I didn't really get along with him because of that. All of a sudden, he comes to War Machine, starts doing really well, and I start to see that, oh, he doesn't just win because he takes a good list. He knows what to do with it as well. And, you know, instantly way more respect for the guy, and I know, definitely know a lot better friends with him now because of that. So, I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of anyone in the meta that's just like the jerk. You know, the guy that I know that I want to beat because he's a meanie and I'm the good guy. I'm the hero that needs to defeat him. You know, that's just not really part of it. What did I color this? Well, those are supposed to be red. Missed that. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question there. So that's all the questions I have from the last post. Now I'm just pretty much going to whatever is current. Oh, I should be pausing this. We still have quite a few viewers and quite a few other ones to watch here too. Terry Slade saying, you're on early. Yes, again, came on early because I have a game coming up, and I'd rather do this early so you have something to watch while you paint rather than having all your paints out and be like, where's Malorian? And then hating my guts. Only just tuned in, damn it. What have you been dabbling about this time, old bean? Oh, you know, just pretty much whatever people have been posting up there. You've really jumped to a lot of different topics. One of the things that we haven't talked about so far is, like I said, taking gators. I know some of the people out there want to see my pink gators again, so I'm going to be pulling them out for my games tonight. This guy is typically Signar, so I was thinking I should bring out the Barnabas. You know, like, oh, you got some guns? I can hide my pools. But then again, it wouldn't really matter because he usually does janky Signar. He's a guy I played last time, and a lot of the times it's based a lot more around combat than shooting. So I don't think taking Barnabas would be that great of a counter to that. I'm thinking then I'm going to be taking Rask to kind of cover my bases if I do go up against shooting. And then I'll probably take Maylock as well. I usually find that's a pairing I really like. I have my Maylock that I can use when I want to attrition, and I have my Rask I can go to if there's ever shooting or if I ever really need to crack armor. So that's what I think I'll go with. Plus my Barnabas isn't painted yet, and that always bugs me. I gotta get back to him sometime. You know, I got him for pretty much for free from my friends, and that was at the time where I was really going into my Signar, so the whole painting kind of stopped. But I need to get back, finish painting up my pink gators so that they're just all done and all ready. And then the Sacrosanct or whatever vault can come out, and I'll be way behind again. Jasper W. Okay, just check the card. Lord of Feast does not have 180. Pretty sure he did. I do have Gnarlhorn, so I will give that a try. Don't have Nawala yet, but have it on my wish list. Maybe with the Witch Doctor to give him tough. You know what? That's going to bug me. I got to go over and I got to check. I'm going to go over to Battle College because I could have sworn that the Lord of Feast hits everything around him when he gets in there. That's what you want to do is you want to shoot that bird, get into the middle of the unit, and you just go baka and just kill everything around you. So we're going to check this right now. You know, there's nothing better for, you know, viewership and listening for like, hey, watch me as I look up rules. Is it Heart Eater? Is it Blood Reaper? First time he attacks with a sword, he can make... Huh. I think you're right. I always thought he hit everyone around him, but I'm not seeing it here. He gets the auto berserk where he just attacks everything around him. Yeah, you're right. To get that full thing out of him, you'd have to use the Argus. Now, okay, so first of all, I concede the point. You are correct. I still... It is a nice trick then to get that 360, so you can hit everything that's around you, but all of a sudden you're investing 8 points to make that happen. I just don't really feel that worth it. Man, I thought the Lord of the Feast was a lot cooler than that. So without that, I would say definitely take them out. I just do not like that. So many points to try and make them work like the Stalkers you already have. You know, Stalkers are 10 points. If you drop them and do something else, you can go like, I'm going triple Stalker, right? Go crazy. I think that's way too much. I don't do that. You already have 2 Stalkers. You have Getorix. I really think those points should be going into something else like the Blood Trackers or get the Skinwalkers in there to work with the armor buff. I just feel that you get a lot more from that. But, you know, play around with it. That's a great thing in the game. Play around with it. See what works for you and your meta. And again, this is why I love having my channel, is because if I was just not posting this up, I'd just be sitting here at my table going, ho, that Lord of Feast, she hits everything around him, ho, and would not realize that he does not. So thank you for correcting me and making me not so dumb. Is this guy done? Am I done both models? Okay, I'm 10 minutes late, but I think I'm done both my models. I just got to fix up the black on the base, and I think we're good here. Doesn't seem to be any other comments right now, which is updating. So I'm going to quickly go and finish this model so we can say that it's done. And really at this point, it's just really the paint spatters on the base that I need to be fixed. But there, we are done. 2 Forge Guard, done and ready to be, you know, smashing things and slamming things. Clearly, I'm going to have to go back now and fix these models, the test ones. It shouldn't be too hard to convert them back over to what the new paint scheme is. So that's good to see. And that'll mean that, I mean, hell, whatever day I do the test model one, it'll be like, day done. So as far as my painting challenge goes, feels really good. Might sneak something in there like Dynamo too. In fact, I thought I was going to have Dynamo today. I went down to the store to pick up Dynamo, and it was closed. I always forget the store's closed on Monday. So you know what? Hey, if I get done these 20 Forge Guard in time, I can switch over. But shouldn't get too cocky. You know, things can come up. The other Forge Guard, I still have to do a lot of work on. They're not even having the first color on them yet. So we'll see. But, you know, it would be nice to finish the challenge and then sneak in something else too. Just go, ha! Something else extra. Wish I had an extra feral guy so I could just do those. Feral guys are so easy. Just one color, teeth, eyes, done. But either way, thanks for watching as I rambled on. Hopefully you got something painted as well. And I'll be back next Monday. And again, for you guys who are hoping to watch this live later, because normally I don't start this for another 3 hours, sorry, but hey, now you're going to be a battle report for you to watch tomorrow as well. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Post down what you are painting during this, because I always love hearing that and knowing that it is causing this. And we'll catch you later. Bye.